Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Importance of Pawns, Chronicles of the House of Valois, by Keira Morgan. Narrated by Susan Ericksen. 4 January 1514. Early afternoon. Château de Blois. Countess Louise d'Angoulême. Countess Louise d'Angoulême appraised her reflection in the fine Venetian mirror her son, her marvelous François, had given her for her holy days at Rennes. Was it not just like him to give her the costliest gift he could find? And who would pay for it? Putting the problem aside, she turned her head this way and that. Were those gray hairs in among her glossy dark blonde locks? Did she have crow's feet fanning from her wide gray eyes? The perfection of the image from this latest invention was perhaps not an advantage to an older woman. Impatiently she put it down. When would that Agnès arrive? It was unsuitable that a woman of her rank should be kept waiting by a servant girl. She paced once more around the perimeter of her suite's presence chamber, pausing to stroke each thick Flemish tapestry that absorbed the chill from the stone walls. She reminded herself that she had done very well to parlay King Louis's favor into this suite of 3 rooms, despite the overcrowding at the Christmas court. It had taken some effort on her part, but despite Queen Anne's enmity, she had even charmed the king into furnishing the rooms. When she arrived early in December, she had come accompanied only by her bed and clothes chests. Louise threw herself into a folding leather chair in front of the hissing fire. The crowned L and A for Louis and Anne emblazoned on the fireplace hood drew her eyes. How the emblem irritated her. When her son was king, she would order those initials replaced immediately. A knock rattled the door of her presence chamber. Finally. When her gentleman usher pulled it open, the queen's maid, Agnès, sidled in. She bobbed a curtsy. "You send for me, Madame Comtesse?" She twisted her hands on her apron. Louise did not rise. "The court is rife with rumors that the queen is sinking and will not last the month. Be it true?" Agnès' chapped lips twisted into a knowing smile, and she gave a jerky nod. "Madame la Reine be mortal ill. She will pass soon, yes?" Louise nodded. It was as she thought. Queen Anne was dying, and much sooner than anyone had expected, if Agnès' words proved true. Though there was no reason to doubt her. On past occasions she had earned her pay, but it was too irritating. Queen Anne's illness was just another difficulty. She still had not approved her daughter's marriage to Louise's son. They had been betrothed for years and would be married already but for Queen Anne's unrelenting opposition. Not that plain, fat Princess Claude, with her ugly limp and mousy hair, was the match Louise would have chosen for her magnificent François. But what choice did she have? King Louis was her son's guardian, and he insisted upon the marriage. Too bad he couldn't control his stubborn wife, or did not choose to. At least Claude was wealthy, and soon would be richer, since she was heiress to the duchy of Brittany when the queen died, and it was just one of Claude's dower lands. "Baronne Michelle has been with Madame la Reine all the morning." Agnès brought a finger to her lips, muffling her words. "She will last but days, yes." It took Louise a few seconds to understand Agnès' mumbled words. When they finally sank in, Louise barely concealed her worry. There would be no wedding if the court was in mourning. "You are certain?" Agnes' chin bobbed. "Oh, oui. I scrubbed the floor, so I hear all." She frowned. "There was more, yes?" "Yes." "She say—" "Who said?" "Madame la Reine say—" The girl fell silent. "Tell me, child. I will not bite." "She do not leave Bretagne to the Princess Claude. Will leave it to the Princess Renee." "By the shoes of the Blessed Virgin!" Agnes fell to her knees. "I be sorry." The Countess realized she was glaring at the girl. There, wench. Calm yourself. You surprised me, that is all. Stand up." Louise forced herself to speak coolly. She pointed to the ale. "Pour yourself a tankard. Now, what else did the Queen say?" After she took a swallow, Agnes snuffled through her nose. Hands gripping the mug, she said, "You not be angry, Madame Comtesse?" "Not with you, girl. You have been useful, and the more you tell me, the better I will reward you." That should open her lips. Hopefully it did not encourage her to embellish her tale. "You not like it, for sure." Louise's gray eyes snapped. "I do not blame you for the words of others, girl." Agnes pushed whips of greasy hair back under her cap. She spoke in a sing-song as if quoting. "Madame la Reine say, the Comtesse d'Angoulême is no more pleased about the marriage than me. She do not like my daughter, and agree to it only to please the king, since he powerful and rich, 'cause she greedy. Let her find out that Bretagne not go to Claude and see how fast she end the betrothal." Agnes slowed to a stop. Louise did not doubt that Agnes had repeated the Queen's words. Though Louise's face burned, she controlled herself. Was there more? The girl shook her mob-capped head. Louise stood. "You have done me good service, Agnes. Continue, and there will be more like this." She tossed her a bag of small coins. Catching it, Agnes scrambled into a curtsy. "Merci, Madame Comtesse." She almost ran from the room. Louise paced the parquet floor for some time before regaining her temper. That the Queen was correct about her opinion of Claude and the marriage was irrelevant. That the Queen called Louise avaricious was insulting, but unimportant. Another example of a rich woman despising a clever one for her lesser means and greater talents. That the Queen planned to disinherit Claude of Brittany was unacceptable. As Louise moved about her rooms, she stopped to caress the soft Flemish tapestries, the glowing frames on the paintings by Botticelli and Raphael, and the tooled leather covers on the book she had taken from the great library. Was Claude worth marrying without Brittany? Her dowry also included Milan, the single richest state in the West. She was the best dowered heiress in Europe. But King Louis had lost Milan, and who knew if he could recover it, or be able to hold it? So what was it worth? Yet her son valued it more than all Claude's other domains, and was determined to regain her birthright. It was an obsession of his. To Louise it was a chimera, but she would do anything for her son. What made men so eager to fight, to become storied warriors, wasting their wealth and risking maiming and death? Louise shook her head to rid it of these unwelcome thoughts. As she passed Botticelli's painting again, she paused to gaze at it. Venus floated to shore on a scallop shell, while 3 graces danced on the grass nearby. Its perfection usually restored her sense of order. Today it did not work its magic. Why could not the actual world be so orderly? Brittany was too great a prize to permit the Queen to bequeath it away from Princess Claude. Michelle de Soubise stood over the table, cluttered with flasks and packets of remedies. When she opened the stoppered bottle of valerian, its woody odor penetrated the close air in Queen Anne's bedchamber. She measured a dose. When Michelle put the cup to the Queen's mouth, Anne wrinkled her nose. They eyed each other. She opened her lips and swallowed. "You know, I do not like medicine." "It is not a medicine, milady. It is a restorative to ease your pain." Michelle's voice was low and reassuring. Never would she admit to the Queen that she gave her medicine. Queen Anne abhorred everything to do with doctors, blaming them for her children's deaths. "You always have a pacifying answer." The Queen smiled faintly, though pain lines creased her brow. Michelle smiled back, repressing her sorrow. It was like pressing her tongue on a canker to watch over the Queen as she weakened and shrank. Although Queen Anne was only 37, she looked much older. Already her cheeks were sunken, her skin yellow and tight over her cheekbones and jaw. Only her enormous amber eyes, fringed with long dark lashes, hinted at her once great beauty. Queen Anne should be in bed, but she would not stay there. A month ago she had been bustling about, and still refused to admit how ill she was. So she was resting fully clothed in her favorite armchair, her feet raised on a footstool. She shivered. Michelle felt the Queen's forehead. It was clammy, despite the heat radiating from the logs crackling in the fireplace of her vast bedchamber. Michelle crossed to the 4-poster bed, the heavy canopy dressed in the Queen's colors, to pluck up an ermine coverlet. At least this new part of the Chateau de Blois was well sealed from winter's frigid draughts. The wainscoted walls, insulated by the Queen's favorite silk tapestries, brightened the space. Returning to her, Michelle draped the soft fur over the Queen's knees. Queen Anne winced. "Bring those braziers close, Agnès." When the chambermaid finished the sooty task, Michelle smiled a thank you. "Stop bustling about, Madame Michelle. Your fussing disturbs me." The Queen sounded querulous, a sign of her ill health. Michelle sank to a stool beside the Queen and smoothed her overskirt over her knees. "Would you like me to read aloud? Or write a letter, Madame la Reine? Or not yet?" Queen Anne leaned back and closed her eyes. As the Queen's dame d'attur, her highest-ranking lady and only real friend, probably even closer than her husband, she was privy to Queen Anne's deepest secrets. Perhaps only her confessor knew more. So they both knew she was dying, although the Queen had yet to admit it. But she had little time left, and many hard decisions to make. Talking about them would help, Michelle thought. The Queen's voice disrupted Michelle's brooding. "The King keeps pressing me to agree to a date for Claude's marriage. Now that she's turned 15, and her monthly flowers have begun, he has become insistent. And after I am gone, I cannot prevent it. But what will I do about Brittany? How can I leave it to Claude when she is betrothed to Duke Francois? She turned her head to Michelle, even that small movement sending a flash of pain across her face. So, what do you advise, my wise friend? Michelle puffed out a breath of relief. Here was the opening she had been waiting for. Yet she was irritated, too. Brittany, always Brittany. Dear friend, although I have waited to say so, it is time to turn your thoughts to your eternal life. Look at all you have already achieved for Brittany. Our homeland is now rich and peaceful. Please trust that our Savior knows best. Turn your thoughts instead to final matters. The future of your daughter, Renee, the last dispossessions you must make of your worldly goods, and your last confession. Do not rush me out of this world, Madame Michelle. Queen Anne's voice cut sharp as a rapier. You may not consider the future of Brittany one of my important final matters. I do. She straightened in her armchair, flinching again. Michelle guessed that her reine pained her much more than she would admit. Listen to me. Those were the last words she spoke. The next moment she was writhing in agony. Ordering Anya to bring 2 men-servants to carry her to her bed and send for Dr. Michelle, Michelle managed to get the Queen to swallow a dose of willow-bark tisane laced with opium. After the Queen's sudden relapse, Michelle sent a page flying to King Louis. By the time he arrived, Queen Anne was sleeping heavily from the dose of pain medicine. King Louis, face lined with sorrow, stood at the foot of the Queen's bed, staring at his wife's waxy face. She lay pale as a corpse under her embroidered coverlet. Michelle touched her forehead. She experienced an excruciating attack of the renal stone and is still fevered, but less so. Queen Anne stirred and began a high-pitched mumble. This was a worrying symptom. "Anya, fetch a jug of the filtered cold water," Michelle ordered. She poured a measure of clear water into a bowl, set 2 stoppered bottles on the work table, added a measure from each to the bowl, and stirred. A fresh herbal aroma cleansed the stale air. King Louis perched on the edge of the chair. "What are you preparing?" He leaned forward to sniff. "It smells of flowers." "It is a mix of lavender oil, spirits of alcohol, and pure water, to reduce her fever and freshen her. She will sleep more calmly." "From what does she suffer?" King Louis insisted. Knowing him, she believed he would prefer the truth. She said, "I can list her symptoms, but is not your question, will she recover?" "I shrink from any hint that she will not. Yet," he squared his thin shoulders. "The unsugared pastille, then." He stared at the floor. "Her humors are imbalanced. For some time I have suspected a bilious humor from the sour odors of her urine and breath, signs of a renal disorder. The agony she suffered today suggests stones have lodged in the renal passages. Only our Savior can give a certain answer, but I know no remedy. My treatment today only served to reduce her pain." "Why did you not send for my principal physician to attend her? Is Dr. Loisel not learned?" King Louis sounded like an inquisitor. "You know Madame la Reine detests physicians. I have been ministering to her since she lost your last child 2 years past. She is resting quietly now, sire, as you can see." Michelle strove not to sound defensive. "Dr. Loisel will bleed her, purge her, and prescribe stinking curatives of bat's blood and snake excrement." She sniffed. "The Queen has neither the strength nor the blood for such remedies. My treatment, willow bark tea mixed with a drop of opium, reduces her pain and allows her to sleep." She picked up her notes from the bedside table and offered him the notepad, leather-bound scraps of vellum held together by string. "I have recorded all my treatments." King Louis swallowed and glanced at the notepad. "I must know she is receiving the correct treatment." "To be sure, the Queen must have the best care." Michelle hesitated. People could accuse even noble women of witchcraft these days, and then torture and burn them at the stake for small acts. Whenever anything went wrong, a failed harvest, a sudden hailstorm, an outbreak of plague, the burning started. With the Queen so ill, Michelle would be safer if an infirmarian attended her. "Princess Renee's infirmarian, Dr. Michelle, has seen her, but perhaps your Dr. Loisel should attend her instead." King Louis considered. "It is true that my wife blames the doctors for our infants' deaths, and we both trust you." He chewed his lower lip. "But I must be sure. She is precious to me." He leaned over Anne and dabbed away a drop of sweat on her brow. Michelle said, "Send for him, sire. Let us hope he knows of cures of which I am unaware." It was prudent to have him present. It should quell the inevitable rumors. The king rose, still troubled. "I shall, although I doubt he... I have observed that my wife improves most in your care." "You are kind, your grace. In truth, the Queen's recovery lies in the Lord's hands." 4 January 1514, late afternoon. Château de Blois. Countess Louise d'Angoulême. In the Countess Louise's presence chamber, crimson drapes blocked the icy late-afternoon chill that would have penetrated through the mullioned window. She played tarocchi against herself as she awaited her daughter's arrival. When her gentleman usher threw the door open, Louise hurried to Marguerite and stood on tiptoe to kiss the Duchess on both cheeks. Then she took a step back to admire her. With her smooth olive skin and dark eyes, Marguerite looked remarkably like her late father, and every inch an Orléans. Her dark hair was tucked back into a golden snood. Today she looked elegant with her coloring enhanced by the dark green bodice, checkered red and green overskirt, and matching great red sleeves. God be praised! Marguerite did not have the beaky nose that made François look like a bird of prey. "Bonjour, ma fille. Did you attend the Queen this morning?" Taking her arm, she led her to a leather chair near the fireplace. Marguerite rose from her curtsy and answered, "I was reading my stories aloud to my godmother and my cousin." So like her. She favored her father's side, too, in her poetic talents, so unlike Louise's practical nature. She pulled a chair close to Marguerite and sat. "Have you been enjoying the Christmas court?" Marguerite's eyes sparkled. "It is delightful to be at the center of things again. Alençon is so provincial, and my mother-in-law disapproves of my writing. And it is always a joy to spend time with you and François, and with people who read and write. who talk about books and ideas. It was true, Louise thought. Though the royal court was a barren wasteland compared to her cultured court at Romorantin, whenever the king permitted her to live there. Only 14 years separated her daughter and her, and people said she looked young enough that they could be sisters. Among the queen's ladies there was a greater age range. She said, "Have you spent time with your brother?" Marguerite brightened. They both adored him. "He dances with me at every ball. I see him in the afternoons composing love songs." She snickered. "They are very bad. The kind full of love and dove and lips and wine and mine and thine. But his voice is melodious, and his eyes are soulful, so the ladies swoon." They both chuckled. They had been watching him lure damsels since his first growth spurt shot him taller than they. "I hope he has been taking care with his choice of hussies to bed," his mother said. "I worry about him." "He does not have to choose harlots, maman, with all the court ladies willing to accommodate him." "Do not be an innocent, my dear. It is not only the sluts who are diseased these days." Marguerite looked worried. "I hope he is careful." "He will join us for dinner. He went with the hunt today." Louise picked up the tarot cards from the table and shuffled them as she arranged her words. "Have you seen his new armor?" Marguerite fussed with the red velvet oversleeves of her gown, refusing to meet her mother's eyes. "He is the best jouster in France. A good suit of armor is not a waste, for he will be safer. He will not lose it being tumbled off his horse." Then she sighed. "Is he badly indebted again, maman? Every time I see him he is wearing another gaudy doublet or extravagant hat, and he gambles for the highest stakes." She met Louise's eyes. "Have you seen his helmet decorated with peacock feathers?" She giggled. "I know it isn't a laughing matter, maman, but the thing is absurd." Louise understood her daughter's attitude. She found it hard to deny her son, her precious César, the luxuries he needed to shine, especially now that he was heir to the throne. Yet her husband had left enormous debts. They still threatened to engulf the estate almost a decade later, and the dowries for his illegitimate daughters, not to mention Marguerite herself, had added to the burden. "I have arranged an excellent marriage for Souveraine, or I shall if I can find the dowry." "I see." Marguerite became serious. "I need your help. What can I do?" "The betrothal to Claude. We must secure it immediately. The Queen is dying. She must be persuaded to agree before she does. Francois does not care. I need your help to persuade him." Louise reached out to take Marguerite's arm. Before Marguerite could reply, there was a knock on the door. It flew open. As the gentleman usher bowed to Francois, servants from the royal kitchen slipped in, carrying steaming dishes that scented the air with meaty aromas. They placed the covered dishes on the wooden buffet against the room's end wall, while men servants set up the sawhorses and a pine board. Her chamberlain moved the folding chairs from the fireplace to the table as the servers prepared the board with a white linen tablecloth, napkins, silver gilt plate, and Venetian glasses from the buffet. Within moments, they transformed the space into a charming dining chamber. Marguerite and Louise greeted Francois with hugs. Louise kept a grip on his hands. "I swear, son, that beak of a nose serves you as well as their muzzles serve your bloodhounds. You have arrived at the perfect hour." She marveled as ever at his remarkable luck. When he was still in her belly, the holy hermit...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?